Welcome to the Stratix podcast, where we talk about mobile technology in business, education, and healthcare. Whether it's new trends, new products, or better ways to do things, our goal is to give you useful information that'll make your organization better. Today we're talking about AI at the edge, turning hype into secure, scalable mobile intelligence. Here's your host, Stratix Chief Strategy and Solutions Officer, Alex Kalish.
Welcome back to AI at the Edge. I'm Alex Kalish. I'm the Chief Strategy and Solutions Officer here at Stratix, and today I'm super excited to be talking to Ben Simmons. He's the Director of Mobile Technical Account Management at Samsung. Ben, it's great to have you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you and to everyone on the web. But I have been with Samsung, about 14 years, so quite a while. Helped launch the B2B products many years ago. But I'm focused really on the pre-sales side of the house, so helping build the solutions and right fit them for our customers.
That's great. So last episode, we talked a lot about AI at the edge and what it meant. And today we're going to take that one step further. We're going to get into where the intelligence actually lives, which is increasingly now on the device itself. So AI isn't just changing the software anymore. It's really like fundamentally changing the hardware. And if you're running mobile or you're running frontline teams, that really can matter a lot. So we're going to unpack what that actually means and try to turn all the hype into something scalable and something real. It's something we can talk through. So we'll talk about how, AI optimized chipsets are reshaping really what workers on the front line are doing every day, how Samsung specifically is designing hardware for that real-time intelligence, what's really possible on the device right now, and then what still maybe isn't or is to come down the road. So before we dive in, I want to start with something that I think just sets the stage, Ben. And so when you're talking to enterprise customers, which I know you do regularly, about AI-ready devices, like what surprises them the most? Like once you get past all the buzzwords around AI, what's something that like really catches them off guard?
Yeah, I think especially for the enterprise customers that haven't really dug in, they've been afraid of it, and they've just, their focus has been on blocking it, right? They're worried about data leakage or whatever the reason. I think when they really start to look a little deeper, they're really surprised at how many players there are in the space and how many different approaches there are that, when they think AI, they're thinking cloud AI. They're not thinking on-device models, and really how fast things are moving, right? So it's really much further along than I think they expected it to be. Samsung, we launched our first Galaxy AI device like January 2024, somewhere around there, and it was primarily focused on voice and language and a couple other things that integrating with Gemini, but it right from the beginning, we were able to control the AI itself and who can access it and what tools they have. And I think that's, alleviated a lot of those fears right out of the gate and really sped them up.
Yeah, that's great. And certainly I can relate to things moving super fast. I mean, it's constantly changing. I'm seeing the effects of that as well. So let's start to dive in here on one of the main themes. For a long time, enterprises have really treated mobile devices as endpoints, a way to access something from somewhere else. But that's not really where we are today. So these devices are doing real compute from where they are, and they're not just connecting to the brain. They're like becoming the brain themselves. So I'd love for you to talk to us about like when Samsung is designing specifically for AI workloads, like what are the big engineering decisions and trade-offs you're having to make? Like what goes into actually building a device that can do all these things itself?
Yeah, there certainly are trade-offs. I mean, you have to look at the entire stack, right? You're trying to optimize every layer. You want to optimize at the hardware layer, the OS layer. Android's done a great job there of including a lot of the infrastructure, and even at the app layer, right? So you really have to, the trade-offs a lot of times are coming in the tiering of devices. To really run this well, you need that faster processor, you need more memory, you need the speed. Those are really targeting flagship devices for that, right? So your trade-off is your more mass production devices, the lower end devices. We aren't we don't implement the same level of features or any features in some cases there. So that's a constant balancing act.
Yeah. And the modern MPUs are constantly changing and totally changing the game here. We just talked about the pace of change. Like, what can enterprises realistically do today on device that maybe they couldn't have done a year or two ago?
Yeah, I mean, really everything started in the last couple of years. So they've gone almost from like science project lab, test, trying to run things, models local, and it really changed as Android was launching the core and the nano. So you could take those models and move them down to the device. So you really have had that big of a leap in a couple of years. So some of them that we see are really successful is like real-time translate, where people can speak different languages and in real time get those translations. And then those are models that we've built in. But then we're seeing it kind of extend to healthcare or retail or other things. And they're taking translation to where they're adding these additional parameters, other contexts, right? So they could tell if the voice is stressed or the speech patterns are off, and it indicates other things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really been successful, especially in the healthcare space. We've seen a lot of that type of solution.
Yeah. I mean, how far along do you think we are in mobile devices really becoming this primary compute platform for frontline workers? Like, what inning are we in, do you think?
We've had a lot of success with frontline workers, especially, right? Because traditionally they haven't had a laptop or a PC. Tends to be skew a little toward a younger generation that's used to having a phone in their hand all the time. And so we do see that, especially with the frontline workers. The traditional knowledge worker, the in-office people are still, using other form factor. But we're seeing a heavy shift towards more of a mobile form factor for all function, not just AI.
Got it. All right, I'm gonna shift gears here a little bit. We hear a lot about AI changing the UX, the user experience, which sounds great, but the reality is enterprises really care about business outcomes versus the experience themselves. So, want to try to make this real for people who are actually on the front line. What are the actual experience improvements that Samsung's AI capabilities are now starting to unlock for frontline workers? You give maybe not always just the bells and whistles, but like what's actually making their daily lives more efficient or removing friction for them.
Yeah, so it really ranges. I've said this, like, we're talking to enterprise partners, and in the front end of a conversation, you can find a use case that could be optimized through this technology. The things we've really had success in, again, healthcare. One of them that another use case that was really effective is just the translation of patients in the room. So you have a healthcare provider that's speaking English usually, and then another one speaks another language. You could in real time on bring those models down local to a device. And before, they used to have to call a translator, get them on the phone, and they were doing it manually. Now they could roll in the translator and do it in real time and translate and keep them rolling. Other things that are just friction removing, just speeding up the normal editing of documents, or
Sure.
One that I use quite often is we have a built-in screener on our phones, right, as part of the audio features. And it can take a call from an unknown source. It can actually start to talk to that person to determine, is this a spam call or is this something else? And if it is, they'll hang it up, and if not, they'll pass it through, and you can get the call still. And so I think robo calls and spam calls are something we can all relate to as a daily friction. Thinking
Sure.
spam.
Yeah, and are you seeing certain industries have more, relevant use cases? And I mean, you gave a great healthcare example. Are there other industries, logistics or manufacturing that are really leveraging this?
Manufacturing, certainly. Retail's the other one, because they usually have a very narrow set of products, relatively narrow, and you can build the model with a lot of context about what they're selling, right? So you can have a home improvement store or a sporting goods store. The customer could come in and ask a question, And then you've brought all that knowledge down into a local model. And in real time, you can, without connecting to a network or anything, you could tell them what parts they need, what model they need. You can give them directions on how to repair whatever their questions on, and it's no lag, and it's in real time. So that's more of a real world case in the retail space.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're talking about the big wins here is faster response and fewer steps and just less waiting around and really a lot of power in the hands of people that need it. I want to talk about Knox here for a second. And I honestly, I think this is where the conversation gets the most interesting is devices get smarter. They're taking on more responsibility, and that means governance. And AI obviously needs governance, not just security. And there's a difference between the two of those things. So how does Knox help enterprises actually manage and govern all these new powerful features that are on the devices?
Yeah, so Knox has always been a very security focused platform, right? So anytime you're moving your knowledge base down to the device level, you have to be sure that device is secured. And the data on that device can't leak out. It can't talk to other parts of the device that you don't want it to talk to. And so Knox out of the box will do that. We'll isolate that data. We'll protect that data. We'll even protect that data in transit, right? We can force a VPN. We could do other things so that the data at rest and in transit is secured. Also do from the ground up, we build in a secure boot process. We have real-time kernel protection, and then everything separated in containers. So, it's going back to the retail use case. Devices with your product information or access to your, can often be lost by retail employees, right? That data then is protected, and we have it locked down at the device level. From more of a governance standpoint, we do have the ability to turn on and off those AI functions, and it's a use case based, right? If you're looking at the healthcare, you may have the physician fully enabled or the nurse fully enabled. The receptionist, you may have it completely turned off, and so you could control it at that granular level with the Knox platform.
Got it. So you can get into permissions and different capabilities restricted based on someone's role.
Yes. Yeah. And most of that's happening at the EMM level, right? You're setting those permissions and turning it on and off with those tools using the Knox platform.
Got it. So just to understand a little better, I mean, what, when there's sensitive data that's being processed locally on the device, obviously there's risks that are posed with that. And how does Knox step in to help mitigate that?
The primary use case for that is the containerization. So what we're doing is we're separating your work information. We're keeping it completely separate from the other side. And so that way it doesn't mix. This isn't an endpoint compute, but more of a cloud-based, right? A lot of companies are worried that they're going to go put on a chat GTP or whatever that cloud-based is, and they're dropping in corporate data, corporate files, and then it becomes part of that larger data set, right? So we can set it up so that, in that use case, you would even allow those types of applications in the same space as your corporate information.
Got it. And as we look ahead, I mean, the whole regulatory environment around this is changing so much. I mean, how do you think about that, just the regulatory side of this and what's coming down the pipe in terms of data handling and all those considerations?
Yeah, the EU is probably a little ahead of us on this, right? There's EU is using legislation. I think, we're probably not far behind. We all agree it's needed. I think there's going to be a lot more self-regulation and compliance in two ways, right? Like we all want to be sure it's used the right way and the data's not used nefariously and it doesn't leak out. But also there's so many players and so many tools. We want them to interoperate better, right? So one tool may be really good at writing code and another tool is really good at processing images. What we want to do is at the endpoint, we want to optimize and give as much context to those requests as possible. And then we're passing those along a lot of times to, cloud-based things to do other things with the data. So as we kind of agree on how we're all going to talk and what kind of formats are going to work, that piece of the compliance, I think, will come more from the industry. And then obviously everyone's trying to do the right thing from the safety of data and that type of compliance. But I think ultimately we'll have legislation help that piece as well.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. So if we talk a little bit about now the life cycle of the device, AI isn't just changing what devices can do; it's also impacting how long they can last out in the field, and that has implications for procurement team, operations teams, and just generally how you're starting to plan for your fleet and how you're planning device refreshes. So, how do you think AI acceleration is actually affecting longevity and refresh cycles? Right? Like, are enterprising really needing to contemplate the workloads and how that all impacts the life cycle?
Yeah, I think there's two pieces of that. Longevity, certainly. I think it's definitely going to work these devices harder than they have on your traditional workloads, right? I don't think anyone's questioning that. And also the curve we're at from a technology evolution space, you really just want to overspec from the hardware as much as you can and hope to hold on as long as you can, right? The Gemini Nano today, I think, is running on, I think it's 8 billion parameter, and they expect in the next 2 years it's 10 billion. I think it's 2 billion. So you're going to see an exponential growth in processing requirements, and you're certainly going to have that additional stress on the hardware, and it's an important piece of the planning for when you're planning that AI strategy, you have to account for that.
And how is Samsung thinking about all of the battery health and thermals and the sustained performance over a 2 to 3 year time horizon?
Yeah, I think one of the tools that we've launched and that is in the market today and is going to be really helpful with that is it's called Knox Asset Intelligence, right? And so the asset intelligence piece is going in and it's giving you real-time data on your hardware. It could tell you the health of the battery. It could tell you how much memory is left. It could tell you how often you're maxing out memory, how often you're maxing out the processor, and it can help you predict if devices are going to fail or how well they're performing. And so if you are seeing that deterioration, you can then go back and pull these devices out of the field, refresh them if you're seeing that, right?
Yeah.
So it's a unique insight that really no one else has into the hardware layer.
That's super powerful, and that's part of the Knox suite.
That is part of Knox suite, yes.
And I guess we just talked about this a little bit, so I'll skip over that one. But one of the questions I think a lot of people are wrestling with here is AI pushing enterprises towards needing to have more premium devices, not just for the sake of being premium, just so they can have hardware that's able to support these new and higher workloads. Because my sense that premium hardware is actually may lower your total cost of ownership when you factor in AI and the total life cycle over time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it depends on your AI strategy and what you're going to be doing with it, right? So I think if you are going to be running localized models, and that is going to continue to be your strategy, and you're going to add additional function and additional compute power at the edge, then I think you almost have to look at the premium ones, the premium line to do that. So certainly.
All right, I want to do a little bit of a look ahead, and then we'll get into some rapid fire things, and then we'll wrap up. So for looking ahead, I mean, what's coming next is going to challenge how a lot of enterprises are planning things today. What capabilities do you think that the next generation of NPUs is going to unlock? What should people start to get even more excited about than they already are today?
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I think it's going to be such exponential growth in the capabilities that it's hard to really predict what's coming next. Obviously, it's going to get bigger, faster, more. I feel like we're almost having the conversation back when we had dial-up modems at 14.4, and now we're like, hey, can we get all the way up to 56, right? I think we're going to look back on this 2 years and what do you mean how far do you think you're going to improve? I think it's going to be that kind of exponential growth from from dial-up modem to, what we have today over.
Yeah.
Really
And I mean, are there use cases that are emerging that you think enterprises just like aren't preparing for yet, or something may catch them off guard?
I don't see nothing really comes to mind that they're not preparing for. I think everyone that's looking at this is being cautious. I think the big fear is this data leakage and
Yep.
any kind of security risk. And I don't think that's catching anyone off guard, that you need to be sure to account for that. And I think everyone's just it's working today. We have successful implementations of it. But I think everyone knows there's a long way to go and a lot of development on the platform and the application side to get this, to full maturement.
Got it. All right. Well, this has been super informative. I mean, before we wrap up, we've got a little tradition that we've been doing here. Really, we've done it once, but it's a tradition now. It's a rapid fire. So I'm gonna ask you a couple just quick questions, and would love to get your take on these. Give me one emerging AI capability that you think enterprises may be underestimating now.
I think everyone right now is looking at their own data and trying to optimize it. I think the on-device sensors and the multimodal, where they're pulling in context and they're using the microphone, they're using the GPS, they're using things on the wearables, all these things to improve the context of these queries is probably one of those things that's not fully real.
Yeah, this kind of multimodal AI, right? Connecting all the different features of a device. What's one Samsung innovation that's going to matter the most in the next 12 months?
I think we talked about governance quickly, and I think that's probably one of the most important contributions Samsung can make, right? Is just developing that platform, how we're going to govern it, how we're going to manage it. We have a great security model today, but we'll enhance that with additional governance tools.
How about any AI trend that you may think is overhyped?
Probably that the biggest model is the best model. I think in B2B in enterprises, what we're really seeing is you're taking the data you really care about, and you're putting it at the edge, and you're contextualizing what you're going to do with it so that it's quick, responsive, and gives you what you need. You probably don't need the best vacation spot in the Caribbean, as part of the big model, right? You just need to know what's on aisle 14. So,
right. Yeah. That's a good takeaway. Myth or fact, most enterprise AI is eventually going to run on device.
I do think you're going to see a huge increase. I think you're going to see most, maybe an overstatement, but I do think you're going to see a lot of the training stay in the cloud, but you're going to see more and more of the data come down to the endpoint.
Yeah. And last one here. I mean, one word for the next phase of mobile AI.
Probably similar to that first one is contextualize, right? Just adding more context to these queries is going to improve the product and improve your results.
Great. You did great on that, Ben. I'm impressed. All right. So this has been, again, super helpful. Let me try to, bring it all together here. Local intelligence certainly is real. It matters. Device level data protection, really a real consideration. And there's ties into governance and security as well. AI workloads, certainly a factor here and can impact, the life cycle of a device, and certainly a big consideration for OEMs like Samsung and how they're designing devices for the future and taking thermals and battery and storage and all those things into consideration, as well as the software within Knox that's able to actually give you some predictive insights into usage and things like that. And that kind of ties into what could be counterintuitive to some people, which is premium hardware can actually reduce your total cost of ownership over time when you're considering AI and all the powerful AI applications that your employees are going to be using. And I'd say the last thing is don't wait, start preparing for it now, because it's moving fast, and you need to have tight governance and all those important considerations to make sure your workforce is enabled. So Ben, I appreciate you joining me. This has been great. Thank you. And that's a wrap.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks for listening to this Stratix podcast. If you liked what you heard today, please share it and visit stratixcorp.com/podcast to subscribe so you never miss an episode.